Now, as we take a look at the big picture, the BCS picture, LSU solidly number one. But I dare say we are moving closer to that rematch between Alabama and LSU.
Well, it looks like right now that if you asked your average voter in the Harris poll and a coach, if LSU is able to win out. And by the way, LSU has Arkansas next Friday and then Georgia in the Georgia Dome. So if LSU were to win out, everybody wants to get into that debate. I think it's fair to say that Alabama not only holds the edge over Oregon before this game, now obviously Oregon's removed. And who else is there? Looks like Arkansas is moving up, which the showdown with Arkansas and LSU, so much at stake, not just for LSU, but also for the Hogs.
Don't you love it? Everybody has it all figured out.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, we come to another Saturday, and they tee it up, and something else crazy happens. And here we are. The madness continues right now as Oregon upset at home by USC. What a night in Eugene.
All these are just little minute details. LSU is pursuing a national championship, but as it turns out, so too is Arkansas. Arkansas hosting Mississippi State. Take a look on the big screen at Tyler Wilson finding Kobe Hamilton.
Well, he just has such great touch. He's taken a pounder, but he stayed in there. He throws it very well.
Brett Favre's nephew Dylan got in the game, and Dan Mullen's team has won only one SEC game. It's a very disappointing year for the Bulldogs. They have 14-10, hoping to pull the upset, but they're going to have none of that, Mark, as Wilson finds Joe Adams.
Nice protection, but Joe Adams does a terrific job of adjusting to the football, gets behind the defenders, terrific job of concentration. Backing up right here, gets the ball, spins over, touchdown for the Razorbacks.
Arkansas had a 24-10 lead at the half. And then look at this great play-action fake here. Lou finds his tight end, Chris Bragg.
Just what quick release. You know, you come off the fake, and the next thing you know, the defense fans right in your face. Boom. He gets rid of it so quick for a touchdown.
Wilson threw for 365 yards, 3 scores, and then Favre got crunched. Ross Rasner, country fumble, but he couldn't quite get loose. Arkansas wins it 44-17. Now it's Arkansas and LSU coming up on Friday. Let me give you a little hint of what you're in for. These two teams have played all kinds of tight games. Arkansas has won 3 of the last 4. They won by 8 last year. None of the 4 games decided by more than that. We've had a 1, 2, and 3-point game. We expect it to be tied again. What's a key matchup?
I think the key matchup is going to be the receivers from Arkansas. They're so talented. They have great body control. And, of course, Tyler Wilson's a great quarterback. He's having a tremendous year. But just notice here how they adjust to the ball. The focus, they catch it in their hands. They get 2 feet down. You only have to get 1 down in college. They're prepared for the pros as well. Now, look at this focus here. They're out there. As long as you can catch the ball in your hands so well, watch this concentration and this focus. And I mean, they have 5 receivers that can play. Jerry's right. But on the other hand, LSU has a very talented secondary. And I used to coach the secondary all my life. And what I love about them is they can play the ball in the air. They're big, they're strong, they're physical, and they always have great position. Very seldom get past interference. Look how they play the ball. So many times, guys don't have the confidence to turn around and catch the ball. They're going to end up with a pass interference. But these guys are talented, and it's going to be a great matchup on a consistent basis.
Well, you saw 17 Mo Claiborne, 7. Everybody knows Tyrann Mathieu, and we saw Ron Brooks in the Ole Miss game have a pick 6. I also saw him do that against Auburn. But you think that there's a place where Arkansas has a little matchup edge potentially?
The X factor in special teams, and particularly punt returns, and Joe Adams from Arkansas is the best in the nation, in my opinion. Not only that, he's the Devin Hester of college football. Don't kick it to him, because if you kick it to him, you know what's going to happen? Good things for Arkansas, bad things for you. Look at this. He's bottled up. Everybody's got him caught in the backfield right here. Look at it. He's going to run all over the place. He's going to pick up blocks. Determination on this play. He's not going to be denied. And the Razorbacks, look at that. Just go ahead and lead the caravan right into the end zone. When you've got a player like this that can make plays in games, you make sure you put the ball in his hands, whether it be at the wide receiver position or in special teams.
I tell you what, though, LSU is a very good punter. Brad Wing's very good, gets great hang time, places the ball well. It'll be interesting to see that matchup as it unfolds on Friday. It's going to be a great game between LSU and Arkansas. Been able to fully absorb what you saw in college football on Friday and Saturday? I didn't think so. Me either. Reese Davis, Robert Smith, Craig James, Kirk Herbstreit is going to join us in just a little bit. We welcome those of you who've been watching the race here on ESPN, joining us for BCS Countdown. We unveiled the BCS standings over on ESPN News, but if you didn't see it, Here it is exclusively, counting down from number 25. Texas has Texas A&M on Thanksgiving night. The Longhorns fell to Kansas State, but hang in the rankings. Auburn finishes up with Alabama. College Game Day will be there this weekend. Notre Dame moves into the top 25 of the BCS standings, but you have to get to 14 to be in at large. Appears to be an uphill battle for the Fighting Irish. Top 20. TCU. If Houston somehow could get upset, TCU still has to get into the top 16 to claim that automatic bid for conference champions of non-automatic qualifying leagues. Baylor up strong after the upset of Oklahoma in Waco on Saturday night. Wisconsin has Penn State this weekend. If they win, they go to the Big Ten championship game and could win their way into the Rose Bowl. 11 through 15, Kansas State firmly in position for an at-large bid. Michigan needs to move up another spot. The first thing on the Wolverines' agenda, end that 7-year losing streak to Ohio State. That game at noon on Saturday. Now looking at the top 10 in the BCS, brought to you by Allstate. Oregon, after the heartbreaking loss to USC, they tumble 6 spots all the way down to number 10. Oklahoma, they're still hanging in there because of their computer rankings. They're 10 and 11 in the 2 polls, but the Sooners, the computers like them and the Big 12 in general. They're at number 9. Houston and Boise State, Cougars win, they'll get a BCS spot somewhere. Virginia Tech and Oklahoma State in the top 5 of the BCS. Oklahoma State, it should be noted, number 2 in the computers despite being number 6 in each of the 2 polls. And the top 3 teams, LSU, Alabama, and Arkansas, all in the SEC West. Kirk Herbstreit joins us now. So first time that's ever happened, Kirk. You've had the top 3 teams in the BCS all from one conference. At this point in time, do you agree with how they're stacked up at the top?
I think you really have to after the chaos that ensued this past weekend. And I remember walking out last night of the press box in Eugene and kind of waiting around to see if Oklahoma would end up finding a way to win. And once they lost, I think it had to be a consensus. It would be LSU, Alabama, and Arkansas. 3 teams not only from the same conference, but as you said, the same division, a division that's been dominating college football the last couple years. So very fitting and very unique to have not just those 3 but now Arkansas, who's really picked up their play the last 4 or 5 weeks, with a chance the day after Thanksgiving, sitting there at number 3 to play the number 1 team, LSU, in Baton Rouge. That game obviously now has much more meaning than just for LSU trying to get by a potential upset.
You like the top 3? I mean, are you in agreement with it?
Yeah, I think so. And you know what else really comes to mind here when you talk about those top 3 teams? They're playing in a great division over there. Is that they get up for every Saturday. The intensity, the passion that they bring to the field is something that these other teams have not been able to do. You see the upsets all the time. I did NC State and Clemson yesterday. Clemson didn't show up. NC State showed up with intensity. So when you talk about hanging in there and then rewarding those teams like those 3 from the SEC West, I'm all for that. I think they're very good. Oklahoma State, very important to note, though, that number 2 ranking you talked about there, Reese, that the computers still like. What happens if Auburn beats Alabama and you have Arkansas beating LSU this week? Now all of a sudden Oklahoma State is right back in there, and they're really in the mix for the conversation for playing for the national championship.
And, you know, we've been talking about this all year long, especially when we started talking about Alabama and LSU. There seemed to be a clear separation between them and the rest of the country. Now, Arkansas has kind of fallen into that spot, maybe more because of what's happened throughout the rest of college football. But clearly, when you look at the SEC West, it's the best division in the best conference in football, and I have no problem with them being there. And quite frankly, part of this always comes down to when you're doing your rankings, it's a blend between which teams you think are best and which teams you think deserve to be in certain spots. So you have to kind of fit all of that into your equation and to how it is that you differentiate between teams in the rankings.
And you want me to mix it up even more? What if you have a 3-way tie? And how that would happen in the SEC West if Arkansas were to knock off LSU and Alabama takes care of business against Auburn. It'd go down to the 8th tiebreaker. Look at the BCS standings. Lowest one would be eliminated. Then you would go with the top 2 and the head-to-head winner. And there would be a whole circular thing. LSU beat Alabama, who beat Arkansas, who in this case, to have the 3-way tie, Arkansas then would have beaten LSU. To sort all of that out, we bring in our BCS expert, Brad Edwards. Brad, based on your years of experience watching voter behavior, knowledge of the BCS, if that happens, if we wind up with a three-way tie, how does it shake out in terms of BCS standings and who plays in Atlanta for the SEC championship?
Well, Reese, I think if you have a normal type of game in Baton Rouge with Arkansas winning, Alabama goes and takes care of business at Auburn, with I guess an expected margin of victory, which would be somewhere in double digits. I think Alabama moves to number 1 in the polls. Arkansas probably up to 2. LSU more than likely drops to 3. And in that case, Alabama would win the tiebreaker because it'd be head-to-head between them and Arkansas. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, the computers are also involved in this because it is the BCS. LSU would be stronger than Arkansas in those computers, and unless pretty much every voter has moved Arkansas ahead of LSU, there's still a possibility that LSU might end up in that number 2 spot. You put it all together, and it's hard for me to see a scenario where Arkansas could come out on top in the three-way tie. I'm not saying it's impossible, but clearly Arkansas's best opportunity to win the West is for Auburn to beat Alabama on Saturday.
Over the course of this college football season, we've certainly been reminded on numerous occasions of where sports fits in the greater picture of society, whether it's the entire Penn State ordeal or the tragic plane crash at Oklahoma State. And once again, we are reminded of those realities. Arkansas says that tight end Garrett Ekman, a redshirt freshman, has died. The university said in a statement that Ekman was pronounced dead at Washington Regional Medical Center in Fayetteville on Sunday afternoon. The cause of death wasn't known immediately. Certainly our condolences go out into the entire Razorback football family.
3 SEC West teams, 1, 2, and 3 Arkansas, and of course Arkansas plays LSU this weekend. Joining us now is BCS analyst Brad Edwards. And Brad, LSU, Alabama, they're 1 and 2 again. What's the likelihood of a rematch in the BCS championship?
Well, Anish, the best I can do for you on that one is to say if they both win this week, so if LSU beats Arkansas, eliminates that three-way tie scenario, Alabama beats Auburn, I'd say we're more than a 90% chance that they're going to square off. I think at that point, Alabama is in the clubhouse and probably safely in the BCS championship game. And I think the only way LSU could take itself out would be to go to Atlanta and lose probably by double digits to Georgia. I think as long as LSU were to lose a close game, they're so far out in front of everybody else, I don't think they would fall out of the top 2.
Arkansas is number 3. They're playing LSU this weekend. If Arkansas wins, how would that affect the championship picture?
Well, it obviously jumbles it up quite a bit because you would theoretically, if I guess we're assuming that Alabama beats Auburn, would set that three-way tie in motion in the SEC West. And there are all sorts of ways that it could go, at least in the polls there are. And, I think the question becomes if Arkansas wins that game, does Alabama then move up to number 1 if they beat Auburn impressively? Or does Alabama drop back to 3? Because Arkansas's only chance of winning the three-way tie is for Alabama to beat Auburn and yet go backward in the BCS standings into the number 3 spot. Not sure how likely that is, but I do think if the three-way tie scenario takes place, assuming that Arkansas doesn't beat LSU by a large margin, the voters are going to be divided. I think all 3 teams will be getting first-place votes in the polls. I think all 3 teams will be in third place in the polls on various ballots. And if the polls are close enough, that's advantage to LSU because they and Alabama would likely be the 2 strongest teams in the BCS computers.
Outside of LSU, Alabama, Arkansas, is there another team out there that could put itself in the championship picture?
The only team I see out there that I would say has a realistic chance at this point is Oklahoma State. And their realistic shot really depends on Alabama losing a game, whether that's at Auburn or if Alabama were to win the three-way tie in the West, go to Atlanta for Alabama to lose to Georgia in that game. If Alabama doesn't lose, I think the only shot Oklahoma State has of getting back into it is for LSU to lose twice. In other words, for LSU to lose to Arkansas, yet still manage to win that tiebreaker in the West, and then go to Atlanta and lose again. For an 11-0 team to lose twice in a row in that spot, especially the way LSU's played, hard to see it happening, but I think that's what it comes down to for Oklahoma State.
Just a few weeks left in the regular season. We still don't have anything figured out. BCS analyst Brad Edwards joining us for the latest on the now very clouded BCS picture. And if Arkansas beats LSU, it's going to get even more clouded. But that might speak to the power of not just the SEC West, Jason. They've got 1, 2, and 3 in the BCS standings at this juncture of the season.
Pretty impressive for a division of a conference, let alone we always thought about the SEC as probably being the most dominant conference in football, head to toe. But in one division have 3. Yeah, right now they are. But I mean, we were talking a minute ago, Luke's 71, was it?
Yeah,
Colorado,
71.
Nebraska, and Oklahoma.
And Oklahoma.
Same thing.
Yep.
So I mean, it's happened before. It'll happen again. I highly doubt they'll all end up 1, 2, and 3 come January when the polls are over.
I doubt it. I think it's going to be a situation where somebody will move up, drop down, bowl games, upsets. It all will happen throughout the course of the bowl game series, and that's when you'll see a lot of things change. And the 1, 2, and 3 scenario may be 1, 5, 9, 1, 5, 12. It all works itself out.
No, I think it follows a script. This was a weekend of chaos. It's done. It's over. LSU is good enough to win this weekend, should beat Arkansas. Alabama should follow the script, beat Auburn. You've got 1, you've got 2. No matter how you slice it, it's going to be a rematch, and the SEC owns it.
I think this is great for college football. I mean, you know, if you look at it, there's no NBA, so everybody's gravitated towards college football and what you can have here, and I think it just makes it good for the game. The conversation is great for shows like this because people will disagree with us and they'll agree with us on certain things, but I think this is just outstanding.
Well, the thing that's interesting to me as we look at all the schedules, Alabama and Arkansas and so on and so forth, obviously LSU as well, is that 9-6 loss for Alabama to LSU in overtime. And everybody was very negative about that. Oh, it was a miserable game. To me, it was a beautiful game. It was the way the game of football between 2 dominant defensive football teams should be played. But here's the kicker. If Arkansas were to beat LSU, how do you then put them above Alabama, who absolutely hammered Arkansas? Bad, yeah. Okay? And then, so if you don't put them above Alabama, that means where does LSU fall?
But this is the problem. I hate to be the guy that goes back and says, yeah, we're deciding with votes again instead of any kind of a playoff format. But it's going to be up to people who vote and what they want to see. It's not up to us as fans. It's not up to us to say, yes, Alabama and LSU are the 2 best teams. Let them play. No, it's going to be up to the people who actually chalk down their little write-in vote on Sunday, and they say who they want to see.
Well, Coach, I got a question for you. When you look at it from the standpoint, Oklahoma State is still favored by a lot of computers.
Well, certainly Oklahoma State, Oregon helped this scenario all going down a week ago and certainly lost out on their case. But again, this is an outstanding conference. They've won the last 5 national championship games, I believe, and they have great talent across the board when you look at all 3 of these teams. You know, Arkansas may be a little bit different in the case that they're maybe a little more explosive offensively than these other 2 teams, but these other 2 teams are probably better defensively. So it makes for an interesting scenario, I believe, Friday watching the LSU Arkansas game.
Put yourself in Arkansas shoes for a minute. There's been chatter, even if Arkansas beats the #1 team in the nation, they may not move up in the BCS standings.
Right.
Well, because as we said, the people who vote will go back and go, but wait a minute. Alabama already beat them handily at home. So, I mean, we're determining it at the end of the day.
And LSU beat Alabama.
I think we can also agree.
Let me ask this question. LSU and Arkansas. Arkansas goes to LSU, correct? That's a tough place to play. If you can go on somebody's home field and you beat the #1 team at their home field.
And there's still chatter that it may not matter.
You deserve a chance to be moved up.
The chatter will be diminished if they put a throttling on LSU. They're going to have to beat them handily. They're going to have to do something to wow the voters to put them ahead of Alabama to get them into that championship game.
All right, let's talk the game. Arkansas going to Baton Rouge. We know how tough LSU is in Death Valley. We saw Alabama lose to LSU. That was in Tuscaloosa. What will Arkansas have to do against the Tigers to have a chance?
Explosive plays, which they've done this year, 61 plays of 20-plus yards or more. They'll also have to have some special teams things happen for them. You got to do that when you're going on the road in a tough environment. LSU doesn't allow a lot of big plays. I think only 21 on the year. But when you're Arkansas, you got to say if Eric Reed is a little gimpy, go at him. You got to attack that secondary, and that's the toughest place they are.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think also they've got to protect their quarterback a lot better than they have.
Good luck this week.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that they're going to win that battle there up front. And LSU secondary, I just think is going to be real tough to beat.
See, I don't see in this matchup, as great and as explosive as Coach mentioned, as Arkansas's offensive personnel is, you're not going to be seeing guys running wide open. You're not going to see Tyler Wilson sitting back there and picking things apart. The pressure packages up front, the talent level and the depth of the rotational guys going through for LSU, it's almost endless. One guy comes out, next guy goes in, and there's no drop off in talent. I think that's what separates them from everybody else. And so I think there's going to have to be something else. And Coach, you referred to it with some offensive alignment of stacking receivers so LSU can't press everybody at the line and creating free releases to get down and create opportunities. There's going to have to be wrinkles. I don't think there's going to be a ton of big plays like people.
Don't be surprised if you start seeing that the tight end stay in and chip the defensive end. To buy time for that offensive tackle, or a running back chip, a defensive end, and say you two guys in the middle have to put pressure on it. If they can get a pocket, and the quarterback able to step up, expect Arkansas to move the football and score some points. Now, if they're not able to chip and get them out of their sub package, I think is really vital to what Bobby Petrino doing. Don't expect a no huddle offense or a second down that turns to a third down, 4-5. A hurry situation, so LSU cannot substitute and have those two strong safeties coming off the end, put two defensive end inside a defensive tackle. Expect that kind of something that you got to think about in this game.
I think the two keys for me for LSU, we know what they do on defense. They play solid defense, they run the football very well, and they make big plays in the passing game. LSU or Arkansas on the other side, they're going to have to get the ball, turnovers. And Coach Stoops and I were talking about this earlier. The confidence of a team, right? Will the confidence be shaking if they go out there and they don't believe in what they've been practicing all week if LSU stumps them for a couple times, a couple 3-and-outs? They have to have the confidence to line up and do exactly what they did in the first series and the 10th series. Because you got to keep plugging at them because there's going to be 3-and-outs. It's going to happen.
Houston Nutt, the outgoing head coach at Ole Miss, had this to say about Arkansas. Take a look. Arkansas is rolling now, and their wide receivers are so good. They've got a great quarterback, and their defense is improving. The truth is, all three of them are strong teams, meaning LSU, Alabama, and Arkansas. We've seen Joe Adams take that punt return back. We've seen Joe Adams make phenomenal catches in the passing game. They haven't missed a beat at quarterback with Tyler Wilson stepping in for Ryan Mallett. And remember at the start of the season, Niall Davis out for the year. They've still been able to run the football despite missing some guys in the backfield. Are we giving Arkansas enough credit here for what they've done this season?
Well, I mean, as defensive guys, and I think someone's already said it, offense wins games. They look flashy, and the rules will set up for them so they can score points, but defense wins championships. So if you have a team that plays solid defense, you're going to be in every single game you play.
You know, you watch this team, you watch Arkansas defense, people don't realize they playing a tough scenario. They stop the run game. They're going to play 8-man front, and they're going to try to get in the 9-man front, and they're going to say, LSU have to throw the ball to beat us. That's one thing that they will do, and that's what Alabama did. Alabama said they challenged them, say, yeah, your receivers have to beat our defensive backs. And this game here, expect Willie Robinson, the defensive coordinator at Arkansas, to line up and play some cover 3 with man-free principles, where it's matchup man-to-man, and say, you guys got to beat us up front.
Coach Stoops, I'll ask you, when you look at LSU, they don't strike you as a great offense. So for all the questions Arkansas may have on the defensive end, they're not going up against one of the best offenses in the country.
Well, I think that's going to be a key matchup as well, is obviously putting a bunch of guys up at the line of scrimmage, forcing LSU to throw the football. But again, they got dynamic players on offense, and they haven't been asked to do a great deal. This has been a kind of a wild game at the end of the year. You look at the history of this game. This is a pretty crazy environment here. Obviously, LSU, both teams have a lot to play for, and when you have so much on the game and closing out a season perfect, it's very hard to do. So there's a lot of pressure on LSU as well.
LSU wants to stay balanced, and then if they don't, if you force them to throw the ball, they can get Ruben Randall, and Russell Shepard is finally starting to play. I will say this, that's the thing with Arkansas. No running game consistently, but they must continue to at least force some kind of run, either short passes or things that keep LSU off balance.
Well, Kirk, we've seen Arkansas struggle on the road this year at Alabama, but also at Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. They haven't been that great away from home. As a 2-touchdown underdog in the afternoon in Baton Rouge, what's it going to take for Arkansas to pull the upset on Friday?
Let's start with their offense, and I think it all comes down to pass protection. It's going to be tough to hear, tough to communicate for the offensive line. We know about Tyler Wilson. We know about his receivers. We know how they can make plays against man-to-man coverage. I think they can run the football to challenge them to have balance. But, Chris, much like their game when they went up against Alabama, we get all caught up in Tyler Wilson and all the skill. You forget about what their game always comes down to, and that's the battle in the trenches. And if they do not do a better job of protecting Tyler Wilson and opening up some running lanes, then it'll be a long day for that offense. So an offensive line that's done a good job of maturing, this will be their final exam to see if this Arkansas offense is ready to pass this big test and move on to have a shot to get into the SEC championship.
Yeah, Kirk, very pass-heavy and explosive, but also inconsistent. Lots of 3 and outs, and that's a red flag when you give the ball back to Richardson and Alabama, because Arkansas's defense has not really stopped the run, and they really flunked their most recent big test against Georgia in that department.
Well, they are going to have to be very physical and take some chances. I mean, this is going to be one of those games, even though they have a lot to play for, that nobody expects their defense to be able to match up for 4 quarters. I think the big concern for Arkansas is up front in that front 7. They're undersized, but they're very athletic, tremendous speed, a lot of experience. They played in big games, but can they hold on for 4 quarters? The other thing, if you load up 8 or 9 up in the box and you're determined to be able to stop Spencer Ware and Michael Ford, at some point, we've seen it all year, LSU does a good job of play action and trying to catch you napping because you're so caught up in defending that physical running style. How will their corners hold up in man-to-man coverage when LSU decides to go downfield with the vertical passing game, the Reuben Randall? So they got to hold up against the running game with numbers and then obviously play well in man-to-man coverage on the outside.
And then the intangibles. Hogs have a lot in the line, but more pressure on LSU. Weird things happen when these teams get together. Upsets have happened, and home field hasn't met that much. Can't wait till Friday.
It should be a fantastic matchup. All eyes. If you're a college football fan, you're going to be watching this football game, and you're going to be seeing a quarterback that's got certainly a great skill set in Tyler Wilson. And this is a guy who, by the way, could have been playing at LSU, almost ended up playing for Les Miles in that squad, but he's playing for Arkansas. What impresses you about his game?
Well, he's got a terrific arm. But what impresses me most is that he's got a chin like Rocky Balboa. It really jumps out on tape, the courage that he has in the pocket. Watch how his head snaps when he takes this hit. Now, he saw these hits coming. He knew it was going to happen, and yet he still stood in the pocket and took the punishment to make the play. Now, you can see him after he releases the ball try to protect himself a little bit. Watch how he'll turn his head slightly to the side, but it's not enough. He ends up with a helmet in the chin and the head snap once again. Now, he is in a lot of pain a lot of times during these games, but he seems to have a disconnect between his arm and his pain sensors, because even when he knows he's going to get hit, he's still able to deliver the ball with a good degree of accuracy. Watch how his head snaps here, and yet look where the ball ends up. It is perfectly placed so that Ronnie Wingo can catch it on a full run and continue yards after the catch up the sideline. Now, this is my favorite one, because it requires immaculate timing and a precision pass to a receiver, exactly, in the back of the end zone. He knew this was coming the entire time. He saw the blitz coming, but he waits till the last second, then he takes the shot in the chin, the head snaps back, and he gets an unwelcome introduction to Mr. Adrian Hubbard. Well, the thing about it is that most quarterbacks are degraded in situations like this in their accuracy. And Tyler Wilson is as well. But better than most quarterbacks, he's still able to get the ball out relatively accurately. Now, like Kirk mentioned, pass protection is key. The Alabama game was, I think, the worst moment for the offensive line in terms of pass protection for this Arkansas team. But they have improved since then, but LSU's pass rush is better than Alabama's. So we'll see.
If he's Rocky, I'm trying to figure out who Apollo Creed is. Not exactly sure, but he's in the pocket and he really could take a pounding. You know, in Arkansas, though, they've hit the road this season, and that's where they're going to be on Friday. Razorbacks haven't brought their A game. In true road games this year, the Hogs escaped at a lowly Ole Miss squad, a snake-bit Vandy team, and were thumped 38-14 by Alabama, including a neutral site win over Texas A&M. Arkansas has trailed by double digits at some point in every game it's played away from home. And certainly they don't want that to be the case on Friday night. There's been a lot of talk about a team like Alabama. Should they be able to play for a national championship if they don't even win their own conference?
Absolutely not, unless they should. Now, the thing is, other teams have dropped the ball. When you look at Oregon, for example, they were in position to possibly be there, but they lost at home to USC. When you look at Oklahoma State, lost at home to Iowa State. Oklahoma lost at home to Texas Tech. I can't make a case for them for that reason, so I would say we have to rethink our paradigm.
All right, so a better chance for LSU, at least in your mind, to pick up a loss. Is it going to be against Arkansas, a game which we're going to see on Friday night, or potentially Georgia in the championship game?
You know, I think they're both potentially an opportunity for a loss. I think Arkansas very well could knock off LSU this weekend, but I think Georgia probably has a better chance. The biggest reason, I think Georgia's defense is more disruptive. They get up the field, they get penetration, they get sacks. It's that 3-4 defense that has linebackers coming from every which direction. They'll be going against a very big and powerful offensive line at LSU, but that's not necessarily the best kind of offensive line to stop this kind of defense.
Wow, so giving Georgia a little bit of love, potentially in a date in the SEC championship game.
After what I saw last weekend, I'm not projecting tiebreakers. I'm not projecting conferences. I'm not projecting anything because I haven't seen Arkansas play LSU, haven't seen Alabama play Auburn, haven't seen OU, the Bedlam game. And it's just going to be nuts here at the end. And we're getting another one of those years.
Yeah. That's why we play the game. That's why we play the game. We're sitting here and you got unlikely teams that are in the hunt to win their conference or at least go to their conference championship ball game. UVA, UCLA, Rutgers, Penn State. Kids, if you learn anything from this is that don't believe all those pundits like them. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about, but don't believe all those naysayers that say you can't do this, that say you're the 5th or 6th best team in your conference. Go out there and put the work in, and you could be sitting right where those teams are with an opportunity to play some extra games.
And to your credit, your Arkansas preseason prediction might come back around and actually hit. Way to go.
Yes.
Yeah. Arkansas, Razorbacks 7-4. LSU, they come in 10-1.
McFadden's going to keep. He's across the 30 to the 35. D-Mac at the 40. Touchdown, Arkansas!
McFadden pulls up down the middle. Peyton Hillis, touchdown Arkansas. It's 4th and goal, 28-21. Flynn into the end zone. It's caught. Demetrius Bird. We are going to overtime.
Touchdown Arkansas. And he's going to score.
From the eye, they hand it off. Touchdown Arkansas. LSU's bid for the national title comes down to this 2-point play. They must send this to a 4th overtime. Here's Flynn. Intercepted. Then Arkansas wins. The dream dies for LSU.
It has happened before, including 2007 when Arkansas beat LSU, but the Tigers still won the SEC championship game and became the first and only 2-loss BCS national champion. This time around, well, if Arkansas beats LSU and Alabama beats Auburn, we'll have a 3-way tie in the SEC West. Then we'd have to cross out the team with the worst BCS ranking among the 3, give the West Division to whoever won head-to-head between the top 2. So an Arkansas win could allow Alabama to go to the conference championship game, even if the Razorbacks are number 1 in the country. But by now, Tigers fans are thinking you're getting way too far ahead of yourself. We're going to win. It's time to focus on the week's marquee matchups, and we start in Death Valley, LSU and Arkansas. A lot of teams are going to be rooting for Arkansas on Friday as a 1-loss team, now number 3 in the BCS, has a chance to shake up the SEC West and the entire national championship picture. What makes them think they can do it? The Razorbacks not only lead the SEC in scoring, but they have beaten LSU in 3 of their previous 4 meetings. As for Les Miles, though, and his Tigers, they've won 16 straight at home and are well aware of what's at stake.
We'll enjoy this game. This is a game that we've really kind of looked forward to. It's a game of significance, not unlike other big games we've played in this year. We just can't help but enjoy those games that are most significant. And our team seems to look forward to those style of games, and certainly playing at Tiger Stadium will be a lot of fun for us.
All right, every game LSU plays has a unique characteristic to it. Maybe this one will be more like LSU-Oregon from the start of the year. We're going to see some offense, right?
I think we are going to see some offense, and I think if Arkansas is smart, guys, they'll use the same recipe that West Virginia did to absolutely torch that back end of LSU. When you look at them, what West Virginia did, getting over 500 yards of offense, is they created some one-on-one matchups, and they won those one-on-one matchups. What West Virginia didn't do is they turned the ball to protect the football. They had 4 turnovers in that game and 10 and penalties. So Arkansas, who's playing better in all three phases, has to be able to use that same game plan, but play smarter, because the thing, guys, that LSU does the best of anybody in the country is forcing turnovers. Their turnover margin is number one. They're outstanding.
Well, you're right about West Virginia being able to move the ball on LSU early in the season. It was at the third game of the year. This team has come together. They've got extreme, very good chemistry on the defensive side of the ball. And I look at the pressure they can generate against Tyler Wilson, quarterback for Arkansas. You're talking about Barkevius Mingo, 10 tackles for loss. He's second in sacks to the other defensive end, Sam Montgomery, 10 tackles for loss, but he leads his team with 7 sacks. Can they apply that pressure? And the one thing Arkansas doesn't have that they had in this ball game a year ago is Niall Davis and that running game. And they had so many big plays from Niall Davis and also that receiving core, but they're going to be one-dimensional, I think, versus LSU.
Well, the hope is they can sort of stay with the formula that they saw that didn't work against LSU that was Oregon's. When you spread them out, you can't just run. You've got to spread them out to pass the ball. And that's something that I think you look at. This is not a 9-6 game like LSU and Alabama. This is more of a 17-14, 20-17, right down to the wire.
Keep going higher.
No, I don't think so. I don't think this is one of those 5-6 overtime games like in the past, because I think the difference here to me is that Arkansas's defense has gotten healthier and healthier and better as a team.
And they're not afraid to go into Baton Rouge.
No, they know they can go there and win.
They've won the last 3 out of 4 versus LSU, so they're not afraid at all.
And I think what a phase of the game that nobody's really talking about is special teams. Brad Wing for LSU is a tremendous punter. And on the flip side, Arkansas with Joe Adams in that return game, that is a critical matchup that could have, especially in a year where special teams have made such a difference, that could very well play a role in Friday's game.
Joe Adams has had 2 amazing punt returns this year, but LSU doesn't allow much either on punt return. But as exciting as a week as this is for Arkansas fans, it's also a very solemn time for the campus, because Garrett Ekman, a redshirt freshman tight end, right after the win over Mississippi State, he died Sunday morning, found in his dorm room, unresponsive, unconscious. Paramedics came. He was in cardiac arrest and pronounced dead soon thereafter. And so Bobby Petrino and the team with very heavy hearts as they go into this all-important game with LSU, mourning the loss of one of their teammates.
Well, I'm going to keep it in the SEC. In fact, I'm going to keep it on CBS in the SEC. I'm going to go Arkansas over LSU.
Oh, there it is.
Arkansas and their 20th ranked offense go into LSU again for this group of young football players, and they get a win against LSU. I think it's going to be a great game. It'll be a fantastic down to the last second finish, but I really believe that Bobby Petrino's Hogs will pick this thing off.
All right.
He's wrong.
All right, well, we'll see. It'll be fun to watch for sure, eating all those leftovers on Friday.
Slight wind out of the east, and the forecast for partly cloudy skies. Arkansas won the toss, and they have elected to receive, so this high-scoring offense will get the ball to open the game. James Hairston, number 30, will do the kickoff chores. And back deep, Marquell Wade and DJ Johnson, Dennis Johnson, both of them with kickoff returns for touchdowns this year. This one will go right through the end zone. Touchback. Wilson has to scamper, he's got room, and he does not take the baseball slide. He's down formation on second down. Jefferson. Got it.
That was a bad snap it threw. It was going to be a quick pass, and the snap was to the left of Jefferson and threw him off. He wanted to catch and throw a slant. Watch, the ball goes, and he never really could adjust to it. Wright was on him, and he had to just get out of the play. Bear look that Chavis uses.
Wilson pressured. Gets rid of it to Kobe Hamilton. And Arkansas has the first down of the game.
Coming from inside out, linebacker, and just throws the crossing route to Hamilton, and Hamilton takes it for the first down. When you rush Wilson, you must get him.
For the Auburn game. Now Dylan Breeding on for the second punt. He boomed it 70 yards last time. This one will bounce.
Yep.
Got it again. Nice gap. Broderick Green splits over center and right guard nearest the line of scrimmage. Wilson rolls right. He's chased by Mingo. Gets out of it and scampers for a first down. Johnson now, the running back, wide right. Wilson will run. Pulls up, fires it wide open. Greg Childs inside the 15.
I'll tell you, Wilson's...
For the Arkansas Razorbacks, no score in the game. Here's Wilson back. Across the middle has a man, and he has a touchdown. Jarius Wright with his 11th touchdown catch of the year.
But here's Joe Adams. Watch Joe Adams clear out this guy so only one guy is in the middle of the field. Then watch Jarius Adams fake to the outside, come to the inside, and look at that open field. They double team Joe Adams. That's as easy as you can get her. Well played, design, good pass protected, and Wilson puts it right on his receiver.
That is only the third time this year LSU has strayed. Jefferson pulls it back. Beckett just misses him. He gets it. LSU has marched in this ball game. There's the option right. Jefferson keeps. Helmet high tackle. And they are across the 50 for the first time. On second down. Here's third. Picked off in midair. And here we go down the sideline. Alonzo Highsmith. Touchdown, Arkansas.
Yeah, and this one was forced. There he is. Watch him read it quickly. LSU knew that these safeties attack. Watch him right on the football. It goes up, picked off in midair, and it's a trot into the end zone.
Michael Ford hit by Kamain Thomas, picked off by Alonzo Highsmith Jr. CBS Sports coverage of the Home Depot SEC will continue after this word from your local station.
One more look here before we get to Jake Beckett. Big hit. Ball goes to Highsmith. Now watch Jake Beckett. Tom Ritter, the official, is going to get in the way back here. And then Beckett slightly realizes, can I cut him off? Can I cut him off? Does he get him from behind him? Well, watch him put his hands up. He knows right away, I don't need to touch him. That was a good no call.
Will come the other way, Ruben Randall. And he is gang tackled as he gets to the 45-yard line. Jefferson. Oh! That one slides out and was almost picked off.
Yeah, he flipped it under.
Flowers. Wow.
I know. Now the crowd's into it.
Wilson has a man open. It's Joe Adams all the way out to the 50-yard line. Matthew makes the tackle, but a gain of...
To a 24-7 game, and it was over.
Handoff. Johnson going left. He motors up close to the first down at the 29-yard line. Greg Childs shakes the tackle. Up to the 40 and beyond. He's out of bounds at the 42.
Good job by Folk.
No huddle on first down. Here's Jefferson this time inside. Oh, boy. Intended for Russell Shepard. Off his hands and floating in the air for a dangerous second or two. 95 seconds to go.
No mystery.
On CBS. Handoff Wingo. First down.
They weren't going to get an 80-yard, 6-second touchdown this year, were they?
Thank you, Coach. A huge momentum swing there with an already emotional and fragile group of yours. So how do you regroup?
We're not emotional and fragile. Our guys are doing a great job. We've stuck together many times this year. I love this football team. They're great players. We'll come back the second half and play with great effort.
We saw the success you had early in that first quarter. What do you need to do to continue that in the second half?
Well, we need to cover punts better and do a better job in 2-minute defense. Offensively, we're moving the ball. We can't turn it over.
Thanks a lot. Vern?
With the first down at the 15-yard line. modest run on first down and 8 opening moments, third quarter. Jefferson popped as he lets it go. Boy, is that Jerry Franklin? It was, number 34.
Wow, that was more than a pop, was it? I think that's a full run at the quarterback, and he puts his shoulder right underneath the throwing arm. Watch this. Jefferson right, that shoulder pad goes right on the 9.
Lonergan snaps it back. Blitz coming from the corner that leaves Randall open out on the flat.
That's a good throw.
And Randall picks up a first down at the 31-yard line. And it appears not.
Yeah, they faked it one way and then brought the guy off the slot that time.
Kenny Hilliard tackled by Jerry in the last game at Ole Miss. Stampley misses on the block, but it's no matter as was it intercepted?
It needed to be thrown away.
It's picked off. Tremaine Thomas.
Jordan Jefferson thought Clement was going to stay down and keep coming back to him, and Clement wanted to go long. A little miscommunication, and was he in bounds? We will see.
He'll take another look. If this stands, it will be Jefferson's first interception of the season. The backfield to the right, 3 receivers, bottom of the screen to the left. That's complete to Kobe Hamilton. And he's free down the sideline.
He's a speedster.
Wow! Harold Simon had to cut him off.
But everybody crisscrosses, and then the guy in the middle against the zone catches it. And Kobe Hamilton, who had 3 receptions last year for 164, including that 80-yard touchdown pass.
At the top, he's dropping back. Wilson goes deep. Is it caught? I believe it is. Yes, Chris Gregg.
Hand roughing the passer on top of it.
Pass is complete.
Watch the middle linebacker come this time as the 4th passer. Not picked up at all. A total bust by Arkansas, and Wilson stands right in there and takes it. I'm telling you, football people, if you have a quarterback that knows that's coming and takes it in the chin like that.
Rolling on the field is a catch. Then we had a personal foul, roughing the passer, number 22. Contact above the shoulder, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Going the distance, we've not seen his fellow senior Jarrett Lee for one play from scrimmage today. Option pitch. That looked like overtime against Tim. 2nd down and 5 here. There's the toss. Hilliard again. And nothing doing this time is Eric Bennett, number 14. 2nd down.
Here they come.
Yes, they do. Jefferson. One-man coverage in the goal line, and it's incomplete. Intended for Randall.
Jefferson's pass aimed at
+1, we'd have 15 teams alive. College football needs more.
Alamon with the field goal attempt from 37 yards. It's up, and it is good. And it's 41-17 with 5:08 to go.
Like Petrino was pointing over to Les and saying, and Bobby's a very competitive guy. You could tell by the way he answered Tracy at the half.
Right,
And he was pointing over like, whoa, great. But you know what, Bobby?
And Alabama, of course, with this LSU victory, will not qualify for the SEC title game. There's a pass to Jarius Wright, out of bounds. Les Miles, Michael Bonnet, Associate Athletic Director for Media Relations, alongside. That is a brief handshake offered by Bobby Petrino.
Right. Well, he'll play again, right? Next year. Sign me up for that one right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, LSU 40.